Congressman Riley Moore. Welcome. How are you, Riley?
Glad, doing great. Thanks for having me back on.
You bet. It's good to have you. How do you like being a congressman over the state treasurer? What do you think so far?
Well, so far so good. I do miss being in West Virginia and dealing with sane people in the state of West Virginia.
Yeah.
But it's something I certainly prayed on a lot, and certainly need a lot of prayers and God's protection when you're down here.
I know.
There's no doubt about it.
So you are a guy who understands things as a treasurer. You understand the economy, et cetera, et cetera. So tell me what you think about Trump's tariffs and what he's actually doing.
Yeah, so I am very supportive of the president's tariffs. I've actually introduced what's called the U.S. Reciprocal Trade Act. And specifically what the president's trying to do here and what I'm trying to address in my bill is, in short, we're getting taken for a ride. The American people and the American worker have been getting taken for a ride for a very long time. Now, what my bill does is it addresses non-tariff trade barriers that are there. So that could be a VAT, that could be a regulation, it could be government subsidies that act like a tariff for our manufacturers to be able to enter into that marketplace, right? A lot of hidden costs in there. Now, the president, what he wants to do is be able to reciprocate with all these countries that have high tariffs. And what I want to do is allow them, give them more latitude to be able to reciprocate on these non-tariff barriers, because at the end of the day, nobody wants high tariffs. What the president has proven is when you go out here and you reciprocate, you're going to lower tariffs and you're going to get more free trade. Everybody who is freaking out about this and, oh, no, this is going to be terrible for the consumer. This is going to be great for the consumer in the long run. And guess what? It's going to be great for the American worker and the blue-collar worker and the family here.
I mean,
this is
Riley, he is playing, I think, five-dimensional chess. I mean, I've not been a fan of tariffs. They generally are not good for the economy and the free market, but the reciprocal tariff is just saying, I just want free, fair trade. I don't want any tariff. But if you're going to raise a tariff, then I'm going to balance the field by giving you exactly the same tariff. Now, how do you do that with VAT? How does your bill actually make, all the subsidies, for instance, Airbus? How are you balancing that?
Right. So it will allow the USTR to be able to calculate that, and they'll come up with a value in terms of what that looks like in a non-tariff sense, right? So what is that value? What is that? What's that inhibitor into our entrance into that marketplace? So it gives them latitude over USTR to be able to determine that, but we have to have the ability to be able to negotiate on those aspects of that. So a tariff on, say, a U.S. automobile in Europe right now might be around 10%, but really it's more like 25%, right? Because of all these non-tariff barriers that are in place.
Is it going to pass? Are you going to be able to get it? I know. What did you start with? 8 sponsors to this bill?
8 sponsors. My main lead sponsor, Marjorie Taylor Greene, her and I have worked on this, and we're going to continue to pick up some more sponsors, particularly as the president has started to lean in on this. And people got to, everybody knows, Glenn, you're a huge U.S. history expert. You know this. And so just flash back to pre-Revolutionary War. And one of the aspects and issues that we had with the British at that time was they were taking our raw goods and materials, shipping them over to Britain to then become finished goods that they would export back over to us. Right. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Mm-hmm. That's what's happening to us right now with the Chinese. It's literally what's happening right now. But instead of that, it's our intellectual property, it's our technological know-how, and they're building it over there and shipping it back to us.
So he says that, the tariffs are going to make us rich because we're going to collect so much tax dollars. But actually, if this works and everybody just kind of plays fair with each other, your tariff is not collecting that much money. We still have to have a serious look at cutting our budget and also our taxes, correct?
Correct, because I'd say you're going to have some revenue on that. But in the long term, we're trying to correct a behavior here. Now, this is an example that I've used before, not that I'm in favor of it because I didn't support it in the state legislature. But if you think about something like a cigarette.
You keep breaking up. Are you there?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm there. Can you hear me, Glenn?
Yes, I can.
An example to think about would be, say, like a cigarette tax, which I'm not in favor of. But what they're trying to do is change a behavior
Correct.
on the other side. So you might get some revenue in the beginning, but eventually people will come off of cigarettes, right? So it's the same way you could think to an extent on tariffs, is that we're trying to correct the way that these foreign countries are dealing with us and bring it to a more level playing field. The president said he's for free trade, but he is for fair trade. So we'll get some revenue in the short term. This is not a long-term play, though, I don't think.
So I'm talking in just a few minutes to one of the congressmen that are on the DOJ oversight committee, and I can't figure out what's real and what's not on these numbers. The Wall Street Journal said, I think it's only $6 billion, according to the Wall Street Journal, that they've cut. I'm really not excited about anything until we get over $1 trillion in cuts, and I'm not sure that we're serious enough to do that. And certainly in Congress, we're not serious about cutting, are we?
Well, I can tell you that I am. And, this budget resolution that they're going to have on the floor today has a floor itself within it, provides some guardrails in there for $1.5 trillion in cuts.
Yeah, but isn't that an $85 trillion bill over 10 years? You're only cutting, really?
Yeah, so that's over the 10-year window.
Yeah.
You're right. So that's over the 10-year window. So in the way I've thought about it, and I've talked to people, they're like, oh, it's $1.5 trillion, or what if we get to $2 trillion? It's like, well, one, it's over the 10-year window, so which is saying we're going to reduce, let's say, $200 billion a year if it's $2 trillion. If this place tomorrow woke up and said they wanted to spend $200 billion a year, they could do it in a nanosecond.
Yeah, and you wouldn't feel it. In Washington, they wouldn't feel it. They have to cut 10%, at least 10% from this. And
yes,
to cut $1 billion is nothing in an almost 90 or $1 trillion out of almost a $90 trillion budget is frankly pathetic and a slap in the face to people who are actually serious and voted for serious reform.
Yeah, and we do got to get more serious on this. And I do think, though, the things that we're seeing from DOJ, if people have the intestinal fortitude, which I am one of these, to actually take what they're doing and put it into law.
Yes.
They can pause this spending, but if we don't put it into law, it will be reappropriated in the next year.
So it's so incredible. I think the American people, I don't know if you saw what Christopher Rufo came out with as an expose yesterday about what is happening.
I did not.
Oh, look it up. I won't waste your time now. Look it up. It is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. What our Intel community is doing on our secure servers, where they're having the most vile sex talk stuff, and NSA says it was important because it was DEI crap. It's just vile. I think when the American people start to see how our money is spent, and some of these things, when they come out and they are out in the open and they are shown to be absolutely true, I have to tell you, I think Donald Trump is running so fast, and the American people like that. And if the Republicans don't start moving at his speed to make massive changes, they're not gonna be in favor with the American people.
No, well, and they won't show up, right? So they won't show up in 2026, and rightfully so, if we do not get to the speed of Donald Trump and start cutting in the manner in which particularly DOJ is finding some of these things. And obviously, this is so frustrating for me coming from state government.
Yeah.
We balance our budget every year.
Right.
Every year. Balanced budget. No problem. And guess what? When we come up short, what do? We cut. When the Democrats are in charge, they tax. We cut, and we got our way there, and we always balance our budget every year.
Right. Well, the other thing is, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, I don't know why we're just shifting money around in the Pentagon. I want the defense budget, and I'm somebody who believes in defense, strong defense, but we have to cut everything, including defense. Why are we not cutting the 8%? We're just moving that money around, according to Hegseth.
I could not agree with you more. Everything's got to take a cut. And I'm a big believer in national defense, huge believer. But everybody has got to do more with less because everyone in America is doing more with less.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Riley,
everyone's going to have to figure it out.
Thank you very much. We'll be watching what happens to your tariffs. You were introducing that when to the floor?
We just got it introduced here just last week, and so we're actually working with the White House on the bill right now as we speak.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for everything you're doing, and congratulations on, or my condolences on being a member of Congress now. Congressman,
thank you. I appreciate it.
From West Virginia, Congressman Riley Moore.